This is not about politics, not about sides, not about leaders. It's about truth and the right to know it. For decades, decisions have been made behind closed doors, meetings that shape the fate of millions. Yet we're never told what was said. We're shown handshakes, we're given headlines, but we're never briefed on the truth. That time is ending. People are ready to know. And what you're about to hear was never meant to be shared. It was a meeting like many others. On paper, it looked routine. 2 leaders behind closed doors. But something was off. The press was dismissed early. Their scheduled lunch canceled. No statements, no questions, just silence. And when they emerged, the room behind them felt heavier. One man looked shaken, the other unreadable. To the public, it was nothing. To those watching closely, it was the moment everything changed. This wasn't the first time a message was delivered behind closed doors. There have been others, encounters unspoken, silenced, buried under redacted files and forced retirements. Warnings whispered through blinking lights on military bases. Silos shut down mid-operation. Submarines surfacing in panic. Strange beings seen and never spoken of again. They've been told before. But this time, the message wasn't subtle. The message was simple, unmistakable, and final. This is the literal transmission. The frequency net around Earth is dissolving. The experiment has reached instability. You no longer hold narrative control. Intervention has begun, not through force, but through resonance. You must choose now. Withdraw from artificial polarization efforts. Cease disinformation loops designed to block awakening. Do not activate global destabilization sequences. You will not be stopped by weapons, but your influence will collapse. Your name will echo not as a leader, but as a warning. This is your window. Choose how you exit. 2 men stood in that room. Both received the same message. One heard it and accepted it, not out of surrender, but calculation. He understood what resistance would cost, so he relayed the message, quietly, strategically. He chose to adapt, just enough to stay in the game. The other did not. He resisted, not with words, but with energy. He attempted to override the system, to reroute the outcome, to remain the center of the story. But the story had already moved on. The one who resisted thought he still had control. He tried to reassert his position and to override the outcome, to trigger what had already been dismantled. But the field didn't respond, not because of censorship, not because of politics, because his signal weakened. In energy terms, he was disconnected from the momentum of the timeline. In human terms, fewer people could feel him. His words stopped landing. His influence began to echo in a room already clearing out. No matter how loud he became, the reach wasn't the same. Not because of suppression, but because the resonance had changed. This wasn't punishment. It was alignment. Because when you fight a shift, you become invisible to the new frequency. To understand why the message was taken seriously, you have to understand something else. This wasn't the first warning, not even close. Because behind the veil of politics and public statements, there's another layer of history, the part that never makes it to the news, but it leaves its mark, if you know where to look. One of those places is a lake, Lake Baikal, the deepest freshwater lake on Earth, located in a remote corner of Russia, and at the center of one of the strangest military encounters ever recorded. In the 1980s, a team of Soviet military divers encountered something beneath the surface. Not a creature, not a machine, but beings. Humanoid, massive, moving without suits or oxygen. The divers tried to engage. They were warned. Then they were thrown to the surface by an invisible force, too fast. Some died. Others were injured so badly the operation was shut down. No further missions were authorized. Officially, it didn't happen. Unofficially, those involved were told to forget. But the message was clear. This world is watched, and there are boundaries, even beneath the water. Baikal wasn't the only time. In 1980, 2 U.S. Air Force personnel at RAF Bentwaters, UK, encountered a glowing craft in the Rendlesham Forest. It left radiation traces. One of the men touched it and received a string of binary code in his mind. It took years to decode. The message spoke of a continuous surveillance of humanity. In Montana, 1967, multiple U.S. nuclear missiles went offline. No damage, no interference, just silence. Security reported a glowing red disk hovering above the base. Once it vanished, the missiles reactivated, as if nothing happened. There are more. Dozens, seen by military eyes, reported, ignored, silenced. In 2015, a strange meeting took place between two unlikely figures, Vladimir Putin and Pope Francis. It lasted 50 minutes. No cameras inside. No interpreters allowed in the final minutes. The Vatican canceled the press conference. Unheard of. The official topic? Peace in the Middle East. But multiple insiders reported tension and fear in the Pope's demeanor after the meeting. No public statement was issued by the Holy See. Not even a blessing. What was said in that room? No one knows. Here's what actually happened in that room. Channeled from the field, from the records that don't make the news. As the formalities ended and the room was cleared, the air changed. Pope Francis, already briefed on prior visitations, expected this meeting to stay in the realm of strategy. But Putin came with a message, not his own. A message delivered to him directly, from an off-world delegation. A warning, yes, but not one of violence, a vibrational ultimatum. The human experiment is at a threshold. Either align with Earth's evolution or be removed from its steering wheel. The words weren't spoken out loud. They were transferred, in a frequency only recognizable to those who've been marked. And the Pope had been marked a long time ago. That's why he reacted the way he did, because he recognized the source. He remembered. The press conference wasn't canceled because of politics. It was canceled because something higher walked into that room, and the weight of it shattered protocol. Let's be clear about something. This doesn't make Putin a chosen one. He's not a hero. He's not working with the galactics. He was used as a vessel, not for his purity, but for his position. The message needed to reach the Vatican, and he was the only one with the power, audacity, and immunity to carry it. They didn't choose him because he aligned with their values. They chose him because he couldn't be ignored. And when the energy came through him, it wasn't his. It wasn't political. It wasn't diplomatic. It was energetic. A frequency transmission sent through him to someone who would recognize it. And the Pope did. He didn't walk into that room alone. No, there weren't galactics standing beside him, but he was carrying their message, their frequency, and even though he may not fully understand it himself, something came with him, an energy, a pressure in the room, one that Pope Francis felt instantly. That's why he looked shaken. That's why no blessing was given. That's why the press conference was canceled, because the message wasn't from Putin. It was from them. Don't worry. Putin's not besties with the galactics. He's just the guy who had to deliver the message, whether he liked it or not. They've always known, the KGB, the CIA, MI6. Not just about sightings, but encounters, agreements, warnings, technology. The KGB in particular didn't just investigate UFOs. They classified them as a threat, filed reports, tracked landings, and briefed every leader, including Putin, on the stakes. The Vatican holds archives older than nations, scrolls never shown, names never spoken, and chambers where ritual wasn't metaphor. It was law. They weren't just watching the skies. They were listening, because they knew it was only a matter of time, not until invasion, but until intervention, not to control us, but to remind us that humanity is not alone, that help has always been within reach. But awakening, real awakening, can't be forced. It must be chosen. These are not isolated events. They're signals dropped into our timeline like breadcrumbs, different faces, different nations. But the message is always the same. They're not here for war. They're here for alignment, and they've been patient. But in 2025, they stopped waiting. The message was delivered, not just to a leader, but to humanity. Now it's out in the open, and out of their control. What you do next is on you. Believe it, dismiss it, mock it. Doesn't change a thing, because the message was never meant to please you. It was meant to break the spell.